Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 23. It is called We'll Always Have Paris. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. This episode basically does two things. It gives us some background on Picard, mainly his love life, and kind of the love that he gave up before he not necessarily joined Starfleet, but certainly when he was at a crossroads where it was like either stay with this woman,
committed,
or commit to Starfleet for the rest of his life. And then the other thing is we have a timey-wimey plot where there's like weird like echoes of time happening because there's like a weird dimension experiment that's went amok and is causing ripples throughout the solar system and beyond. So those are the two key things here. And I was worried about this episode because old Flame episode, that can be
I
rough.
got whiplash early on as to what this episode was going to be because it was just throwing everything at me. There was a bit where I was like, "Oh, is this another holodeck episode?"
Yeah, I actually see early on because when we get the first like time thing happens and they realize where they're going, and Picard hears the name of the doctor who's sent out this distress beacon, and Troy says, "Hey, I got an intense emotional reaction when you heard that name." It's like, we've got a few hours to get there, so if you want to go and talk to me or just work out your feelings before we do. And then he goes to the holodeck and he recreates this cafe in Paris from 22 years ago. I thought, is the rest of this episode being the holodeck? Is it all going to be like, only at the very end we'll come out the holodeck and we'll get to where we're going and have a quick plot?
I thought that was a possibility.
Yeah, I thought that maybe was happening. I was relieved when it didn't, because I didn't necessarily think him in a Paris coffee shop for 40 minutes was going to be all that engaging.
Particularly compelling, no.
So I was glad about that. But yeah, so sure enough, this Mannheimer, and that name is not accidental. But he's doing experiments, and he actually is married to the woman that Picard was once with, and he never showed up at the coffee shop when they were supposed to meet. He instead just shipped out with Starfleet.
Bit of a dick move.
And has never seen her since, because when they talk later, when they finally get a chance to have a private conversation later, it's like, yeah, they've not spoken since that day. Like, he knows who she's married to. He's probably just used his own pool with the Starfleet computers to keep track of that.
Do a little bit of research. Yeah.
That seems to be the implication I get. Because he does this thing, and the crew notice it on the bridge when they get to the distress speaking, and like her voice comes on the comms, and she's like, "Oh, this is blah blah outpost blah blah blah," and he's like, "This is Captain of the Starship Enterprise." He just kind of doesn't say his name.
Yeah.
And like Geordi and Data just kind of look at each other like,
that was weird.
That was odd, wasn't it? That was really odd. And the stuff with Picard and this woman, Denise, is fine.
Passable.
It's not particularly great. I think where it works for me is stuff like when Crusher walks in the room and he's talking to her, and it's like she's like
awkward. Yeah,
and it's like she's invading like an old relationship. And I was actually surprised that later in the episode, Troy actually comes and talks to her about it and says, "Hey, do you want to talk about what's eating that?" He's like, "I don't want to talk about that."
Gotta have some use for a therapist.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but this conversation with Troy is the first time it's outright actually being kind of suggested that they've got feelings for each other, right? Like, we've had moments and looks, and we've had like the moments between the two of them themselves, but Troy coming in and kind of talking to her about it's the first time that it seems like Crusher actually cares about Picard, and she knows that Troy knows she cares about Picard, and is talking about her feelings in some way.
I'm not sure. I don't recall any specific instances.
I don't think they have. This was the most overt I think they've been with it, and she never even outright says, "I'm in love with Jean-Luc Picard," but obviously what she's saying has implications, and it's very kind of clear what her feelings are here. And I didn't need this scene, like even just the moment itself when she walks around the corner and it's like, oh, I'm intruding, and they clearly have chemistry in front of me, and they're clearly reminiscing of old times, and and there's no cheesy plot where it's like, oh, well, she's cheating her husband, will Picard be a dick here? Like,
yeah, no, that would have been tedious.
That would have been tedious, but no, to Picard's credit, he keeps this. It's clear that it's affecting him, but he keeps it as professional and as as he can. It's very
definitely.
And I think honestly, where this episode really falls down for me, it's not so much that I necessarily love this stuff, although I do think some of the stuff with Crusher gives it the spark it needs for us to care as an audience, because we don't really care about this woman. She's just kind of this one-off backstory character. Where it kind of maybe falls flat though is I got quite intrigued by the other side of the plot early on. When they started having these weird ripples and they're seeing themselves in the turbo lift, or Picard's fencing. We opened the show in Picard fencing. Can we just actually acknowledge that for a minute?
Because it's cool as shit.
Of course Picard fences. He looks like a fencer.
He does, yeah.
He looks like the type of man who just wants to say, "On God!" like every so often.
Yeah, he does.
He just does. But he's opening fencing, but they end up repeating a little moment. And at first I thought it was like a glitch in the holodeck, like he wasn't in like a room with a person, he was in the holodeck, and the holodeck glitched. And it's like, wait, what just happened, Captain? I'm like, oh no, he's a real dude. Oh, okay, something else is happening. What's going on?
Yeah. No, I got immediately way more into this plot because it's just significantly more interesting. No matter what, even if it had gone off the rails, it was just more interesting to begin with.
It was more interesting to begin with. I think it falls flat a little bit though, because it never really gets into it as much as it really should, and it's intentionally very vague. Like, okay, so he's doing experiments trying to like discover another dimension, and his body was the reason why like the husband's sick is because the doctor is because part of him's still over there, and they need to fix the timey-wimey like.
And Data's got to go in and do some stuff because he's kind of all right with it all.
He can process the weird timey effects better than the humans can, as he points out. But you're actually skipping over stuff because they try to beam down even before that, and it doesn't work. Basically, they almost lose the people they beam down. It's Data, Worf, and Riker. They go down, and they almost lose them. And it's like Picard's like, they'll just beam them back up, and that's like a struggle because the guy at the comms is like, "Hey, you're lucky to be back at all, sir." When Riker's like, "Why are we back here? Like, what's going on?" And then we find out there's a lot of security procedures, and when they were describing all this stuff, like I thought the back half of the episode was going to be like, okay, we have to go into that lab and we have to like get to the thing.
Figure out a way, yeah.
But it wasn't as much of a because it's funny because Chernobyl's on just now, and I was almost getting like a weird lukewarm sci-fi Chernobyl vibe, where it's like, okay, the experiments like malfunctioned or exploded or whatever, and we have to send someone through the dangerous landscape to get to it and like try and turn it off because it's causing all these time distortions. Right, and I was sort of thinking of it, and I thought the back half, not that it was going to be anywhere near as dangerous as Chernobyl was, but just that it would be like going through the lab and like weird time things would start to happen, and that doesn't really occur, not until the very end, and Data just kind of quickly deals with it.
Yeah, there's a moment where there's 3 Datas, and it's like, wait, which one of us is it? It's just like, it's cool, guys, it's me.
Yeah, how he knows that? Just because Data knows.
Just confidence in himself.
Yeah, but it didn't amount to as much as I think I was hoping. So
no, it didn't, because we had to spend so much of the runtime on the other plot, which is a little frustrating. That it feels like, because like I said, the other plot is fine, it's serviceable, but I am annoyed at it for taking time away from this.
It's a weird critique though, because ultimately you have to kind of think to yourself that clearly the other plot, the love story plot, is the main purpose of this episode. What's happened with her husband and the experiment that's went wrong is just there because there needs to be the action plot of the episode, the exciting sci-fi part of the episode, right? It feels like kind of an afterthought, and it's a shame because the basic structure, not the basic structure, but the basic idea of it is actually pretty interesting. And I'm like, I could do with a whole episode based around this.
Yeah, it is a problem where they overshadowed their main point with the side plot. And we're like, no, give it to that main thing. Give us more of this.
Give us more of this. Give us timey-wimey. Give us looping things. And there's some neat little things in there. There's a character moment for Data when he's talking to Picard. And Picard's like, okay, I'm going to send you down alone. Because now that the professor's woke up for a bit and he's given us the codes for the alarms and things like that. Although this is another episode where Data's dodging a laser. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, he's getting quite adept at that.
Data laser dodging, as I call it. You used to say laser.
So you call it exactly what it is.
No, you need to say laser as if it's spelled, it's not laser. Laser. Data laser. Terrible. Data laser dodging.
Terrible. I will not support that.
I never said it was good. But we have this moment when Picard says you can go down on your own, and he's like, "Oh, that makes sense, sir. I'm a machine. I am dispensable." And he's like, "No, you're indispensable. But here's why. I'm sending you down because you seem to be able to process these. You seem to understand what's happening, whereas we get confused. We just sort of break down. Like, wait, I'm seeing myself. What's happening?" And Data's like, "Well, I see time as a constant. It's almost like his natural clock is just accurate all the time because he is an android."
Yeah. He talks about how we perceive time differently. Time flies when you're having fun, and that there is a truth to the perception of time being different, right?
Oh, absolutely. Whenever I'm recording with you, it feels like it goes on forever.
Feels like it goes on forever. Yeah. I know. I feel the same. But like I say, his internal clock is just exact. It is constant. There is no perception of it. It's just as it is.
Yeah. And it's another one of those little things they could play with as time goes on, like how Data perceives things. Like, does he start to perceive things as more of a human, after a lot of experiences? Does it?
They could. They probably won't ever come back to it again. But
well, I'm a little annoyed that they're probably never going to come back to this specific thing. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be other episodes that have similar ideas to what this one did, but it kind of bugs me that it'll probably not be the further results of because we know that the Doctor's going back down to continue his experiments. He's not finishing here. He's going to keep going.
Yeah, he is.
Because he thinks it's worth doing. And I'm like, it's a shame that we're probably never going to get an episode where his completed research leads to something. Yeah. Or his completed experiments leads to something great. I don't know. As I say, it's the biggest fault of the episode, probably, is that it has potential in the side plot. And I'm like, if you can call it the side plot, it kind of is, it kind of isn't.
It feels relatively even in terms of runtime.
I meant more so that it's technically the same plot, because it's all one thing, really. It's just that in our heads we have two main elements of it. We have the romance with the old flame, and we have the actual sci-fi timey-wimey time distortions, I might call them.
Yeah, that's a pretty reasonable way of describing it.
Yeah, because the first one's just a repetition thing. It's just like a deja vu thing, and then the second one it's more
it's just like a little second is repeated, and then it seems like, oh no, they're glimpsing into the future this time.
Yeah. Well, no, what I thought was interesting about that one, though, when they got in the turbo lift, is that we actually didn't stick with the original set that went on the turbo lift. We actually switched to the original set. And what was neat about that, I thought, was that because they walk out of the turbo lift, they're having this conversation about what to do, and then the doors open, and it's them before they got on the turbo lift. But when the door shuts again, we stay with the ones that were about to go on the turbo lift, and it's almost like we stick with those characters because their perception has been changed because they just saw themselves, 30 seconds in the future. So I think because you're right that it's that they're seeing the future, but what I think is interesting is we actually start with the original set who are not in the future, and then we switch to the previous set. I just think that's interesting from a dynamics point of view, and it's part of what I thought was inventive, and where I thought they might go with more of this episode. Whereas,
there was so much potential with. Because this is such a specific play with the time rules that I'm sure it's been done before in other places, but it's so nailed down in what it was doing in terms of the mechanics that it felt like there was a lot it could do, and it kind of just stayed at the bare minimum.
I think what's interesting as well is the idea even that there is like a correct one. At the end when Data has to put the antimatter into the big experiment to shut it down, he's like, no, it has to be at the exact right time. So when there's because in my head, I think at first I assumed that no, all 2 or 3 timelines are valid. Like they're all just different parts of the time, and we're just seeing multiple things at the same time, or whatever. But by the end of the episode, it's like, no, one of them is correct. One of them is what is happening now, and the other 1 or 2 are either echoes of the future, or echoes of the past. But I thought that was an interesting. Again, more could have been played with that, and that could have been. I mean. Let's say the episode started off with okay, we've got these echoes of before and after, and then the second half could be we have to have a way of figuring out which one's the correct one, which one is actually happening now. Because if that's relevant in stopping it, then I don't know. There's so much potential in this stuff.
There is. It's frustrating, isn't it? God damn it, Picard, you selfish prick.
I don't know
if it's
valuable
runtime. I'm blaming him.
I don't know if it's his fault. And to be fair, I did there's some scenes with the old flame that are okay.
No, they are.
When she comes to see him, and she's like, "Okay, this is the first chance we've had to talk, and you weren't coming to me." Which again, it tells us something about his character, that he would never, like, in this professional capacity where he's the captain of this ship, he's there to help with a distress call, he would never actually go and make this personal, but she comes to him, right? That tells us something about him. And then after that, she's like, okay, why didn't you show up that day in the coffee shop? He starts just telling the truth. He's like, oh, I was afraid. And he's like, no, I don't want the truth. Give me something that's easy and, I could just accept. Yeah. He's like, oh, sorry, I thought it was Tuesday. And it turned out it was Wednesday.
Yeah.
Couldn't catch a cab. It was raining.
Yeah, he just spiels off like a handful of things.
And I think what I like about this scene is that it's the one scene where I kind of feel like, okay, it tells us something about Picard, so it's useful to us in the grand scheme of the show because it's given us more insight into him and how he will treat a romance in the context of his professional life, his personal and professional lives. And I've seen that to an extent with Crusher and how he's not really kind of pursuing anything and he's kind of awkwardly avoiding it. But this gives us a greater insight to it. And I think the other thing that makes the scene work is the idea that this is maybe the one scene in the episode where I actually get the chemistry a little bit, where I get she calls him out and things, and it's not like awkward. It's like she's like, I know who you are. It's a
very playful response, isn't it?
Yeah. He cracks some jokes when she does that, and it's almost like he's just sliding back into a comfortable blanket that he's not been under for a long time. It's like he stops being Captain Picard for just 30 seconds. And this was what this person does to him. And it's the one scene where I'm like, I actually get that there was a relationship here. I buy that this was something that happened 20-something years ago.
It felt natural.
Yeah. So I think that scene was pretty good, actually.
Yeah. I agree. It's not that there are no bad scenes in that side of the plot, because there's probably very few that I would point out and say that's a bad scene. It's
yeah, they're mostly they're at least serviceable always, if not some of them outright good.
They were never like tedious. They were never like, oh, why am I doing this? But I found myself in maybe 60-70% of the scenes going, oh, I wish I was back on the other plot.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That's the problem with this. Even though, like I say, you do have some scenes like this one that are really good and get your attention enough that you're not thinking about the other plot instead.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's basically the episode. I do want to say, though, I thought the ending was interesting because, they're going down. Picard brings out the holodeck. She's never seen a holodeck before, and she's like, there's the cafe in Paris, and they have like a goodbye there. And it's kind of sweet. It's a kind I actually really respect them for not doing something obvious here, like, oh, she'll give him one cheeky kiss goodbye, even though she's married. Like, I'm glad they didn't do that.
Yeah, that would have been... just cliche.
Yeah, this felt like it was it was like harkening back to what they'd went through without it. It never really felt like Picard had any weird intentions here. It was always just, this is where we were supposed to say goodbye, and if I was man enough to actually show up and do it at the time, because he talks about that, he says that he had a decision to make, and it was either commit himself to Starfleet or commit himself to her, and he wasn't really sure which one was right. He just gets scared of making the choice, and not having to confront her was the easier option. Essentially, it's him admitting that he made a he was at fault. He failed in an act in his life, and it's not an embarrassing one. You understand why.
The mistake wasn't the choice itself, like the outcome that he chose. It was more the way he went about it by not being honest with her at the time.
Yeah, although I did get the impression from the scene that he still doesn't necessarily know like which one was necessarily the correct choice. Like, he's not dissatisfied with what he's doing in his life, but there's moments when he sees her with her husband, and he's there's maybe a look in his face that says, yeah, this I could have been with her, and I might have just been as happy, if not more. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
He certainly just doesn't know. But yeah, the big failing is that he never showed up and actually confronted it and said that to her and made his choice. So he kind of essentially recreates it at the end here. But the one thing I did want to say about the ending, though, is that when they've left and he's back on the bridge, and I loved it when he walks in, everyone's just kind of quiet and just kind of staring at him, and he's like, "Is everything okay?" They're like, "Yes, sir." But they're really all just sitting awkwardly because they know he's just said goodbye to someone he cares about.
But he's snapped straight back into captain mode immediately.
Yeah, and then he sits down and he's like, "Okay, where are we going?" And they're going somewhere, and Riker's like, "Oh yeah, we're going there. I was there once. They had these blue drink things," and Troy kind of like comes in and says, "Yeah, it's right across from this bar." And then Picard like names it exactly. Says, "And Troy, you're buying." And there's nothing necessarily notable about this little scene. It's a little bit of banter, but I think why I mention it is because it's maybe one of the first times I felt like there's been a little banter scene at the end, kind of a la, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy.
Series, yeah, we used to get that a lot. At the end, you just have the the bridge banter scene.
It was almost every episode, and we've always had a scene in the bridge usually at the end of these, and Picard will say engage or whatever.
Yeah. Rarely have banter.
But this was a little jokey banter thing, and it was just notable to me because it reminded me of the original series. So
yeah, I get that.
So
because it was always notable in the original series when we didn't have those moments. We noticed them a lot. So yeah, it is. I'd be okay with them kind of returning if they kind of want to start easing those in.
And they've got more characters to play with, I think, in this show, because I think the original show, it very much felt like the core three, and then everyone else was like a secondary character. This show, I feel like we can bounce around to Data, Geordi, Worf without it feeling weird. Like, I mean, arguably Picard and Riker are the top two, but like it's not as clear cut, I don't think.
Yeah, so Picard is definitely the top one.
Yes.
And then I would probably agree with Riker after that. 3 is.
I think there's a third. Not really. I think sometimes, depending on the episode, they'll treat Data as the third, they'll treat Troy as the third, they'll treat Crusher as the third, but it doesn't seem to be a consistent.
It doesn't, no. I'd say those ones you just named are above Worf and Geordi, though.
For now.
For now, as where we are right, at this point of the show, those they seem to be on the bottom of the hierarchy.
Out the main cast, obviously.
Yeah.
Wesley can.
He doesn't count.
Well, it's a shame because Tasha would maybe at the bottom before, but the puddle got her. The puddle got her.
Ow.
Would you hurt yourself?
You went loud then. That actually distorted.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Good. Give it some drama. Give it some drama. Let's see what's coming next week. Next episode. So episode 24 is called Conspiracy. And this is a notably higher rating.
That always bodes well.
What?
A higher rating, you say?
Much higher?
I don't know. Whenever I hear something is called Conspiracy, I inwardly groan because it's usually not a good sign.
I have 2 points in this. One is the rating's much higher. Like, we're shooting up to an 8.2 here from a 6.6.
Oh, okay. That is a significant.
And 2, Tara a couple of weeks ago said to me something on the lines of, "Oh, conspiracies soon," as if that meant something. So,
okay.
So conspiracies next
Tara,
time.
stop giving him little hints like this. You're ruining all the fun. I don't want him having an advance warning.
I don't know. I was kind of happy having an advance warning about Puddle of Evil, or Skin of Evil, whatever it was called. There was Puddle of Evil. I mean, that's what it was.
We're renaming it.
That's what I'm referring to it as. It's Puddle of Evil. After diverting to a secret meeting with an old friend and some of Starfleet's finest commanders, Picard finds the Horatio blown to bits just hours after the meeting, and he returns to the Enterprise to Earth looking for answers. Horatio, I presume, is
a ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Ship or a base, maybe a star. Okay.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the designation before it as to tell us what its class or
Yeah.
It's a ship or a star base, whatever.
Poorly written description, but these are users submitted, I think, so I'm not going to hold it against anyone in particular.
I'm going to hold it against it a little bit.
Yeah, so Conspiracy is the next episode, so looking forward to that. But yeah, that's us. So
I just want to say before we finish, this remaster.
There was one shot. I know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah. Because even before I started the episode, I was going to pull my Blu-ray, and it goes, "Please note, this episode features 2 seconds of unenhanced footage," or whatever the word it used was. I was like, "This is unacceptable."
I noticed it.
Yeah.
It was a shot of Riker when they're at the computer at one point. Yeah.
I'm like, this is not acceptable. What are you playing at?
It was really obvious. They must have just lost the footage.
Must have done.
Yeah,
But,
so they just had to take the SD footage and shove it in.
Yeah. But unacceptable.
Hey, out of 26 hours of TV in season 1, 2 seconds ain't bad.
it's not bad, but it's not good enough.
I'm so sorry. I'll get Frakes back in. Just pretend you're 25 again, Frakes.
Yeah, why not? I want to find the exact word. It was note: episode contains 2 seconds of SD footage upconverted to HD. I'm like, oh, okay.
I noticed. I didn't get a warning, but I noticed.
Yeah. Just comes up with a little warning on the menu when you click on the episode. I was like,
Yeah, and it is notable actually. We should mention that I believe after that we only have one more episode before we hit because it's 26 episodes, but the first two counted was one big episode.
Yes.
So episode 25 is technically the finale of the season. So we have two more. So the plan right now is to get those two done, do our best of the season video, our top 5, and then there'll probably be a couple of weeks off before we start season 2. So I'm just going to start warning you about that now.
Yes. Yeah. Busy period, but we thought end of season is a nice chance for just a couple of weeks break.
Yeah, it's a good place to have a break for a couple of weeks, just to let everyone, breathe, catch up. Feels like a natural thing. Then we can go back out of season 2, full swing.
Yeah,
full swing.
That's the plan.
Yeah. Do you think Riker has a beard in season 2, or is that season 3 before he gets goatee?
It's my understanding it's season 2. But I may be misinformed.
I hope it is. I think it looks better with the beard.
It does.
We have something in common with the Riker in that I think I look better with a beard, as does Riker.
Yeah.
And I've seen you without a beard, I think, and
yeah. I guess for me too.
I concur that Connor's face is pretty abhorrent without that chin curtain to give it shape.
To be honest, that's the whole point of a beard is to change, to fix the shape, right? It goes for both of us, because I've seen you without a beard too, and yeah. There's the occasional video where you've made a shaving mishap, and there's like a week where you look like a fool.
Yeah, there's a week of no beard until it grows back in. Yeah. All right, that's been episode 23 of Star Trek Next Generation. So let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments, like and subscribe, all that stuff. To promote some stuff to you that may be of interest, obviously, we do review new Star Trek shows as they come. We did Star Trek Discovery, obviously Picard, when that hits, we'll be doing. So look forward to that, as well as the new stuff from CBS All Access. In terms of classic sci-fi stuff, there's also classic reviews of the original Twilight Zone you can check out, and also classic reviews of Babylon 5, which is still in season 1. That's been going a little bit slower, but that should be speeding up soonish. So go check out those, seem to be of interest. And then as for new TV shows coming up, this will be another week or so before it's out to everyone, but we should be into the swing of a new season of Black Mirror, Handmaid's Tale, Dark's coming up, Too Old to Die Young's coming up, Stranger Things season 3 is only about a month away, so...
Hence the reason why there might be a couple of weeks off between seasons.
Hey, between seasons is a nice time to put it.
No, it is.
I don't feel too bad having a break there.
We hit the barring any major complications on these last episodes, we hit the full season, every week.
We did. I'll be proud of that. But hey, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. Guys, on Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV if you want to support the show and the channel, everything we do here. Keep the reviews coming, get some bonuses, get some exclusives, keep the lights on, as I've heard other podcasters say. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, guys, and to everyone but Connor, live long and prosper.